That American flag around your shoulders looks pretty good. How does that feel to represent your country like this?
It feels amazing. I love representing the U.S. I freaking love living there.
This is the Delta variant of Jim Crow voting laws. And the only vaccination is federal legislation.
If you're not going to be a part of saving people's lives, then get out of the way and let other people do the job.
So you're blaming the kids, saying they weren't wearing masks and so they're in the ICU. With all due respect, I find that deplorable, to blame a victim.
They read into comments that I made and draw inferences that I never meant. They ascribe motives I never had. And simply put, they heard things that I just didn't say.
What a guy. Sorry, honey, you imagined it all. You're hearing voices. You misinterpreted. It's on you. Some classic gaslighting from Governor Andrew Cuomo. I found today, with what he did, throwing the kitchen sink out there, saying that, he and his own family knew about sexual abuse, etc., and then saying that, and then saying that those political enemies were up to something, and flailing out at any target he could possibly think of.
The New York Times published a front page picture of me touching a woman's face at a wedding and then kissing her on the cheek. That is not front page news.
What a psycho.
I love that. Where's your newspaper you run, Governor? Because then you can put what you want on the front page and you can skip the wedding photos of...
They gave you a pass for killing all the old people. You know, I would go a little easy on the Times. It's remarkable. He didn't... This was a pre-recorded, prefab thing that he put out there today. It did not even address the allegations from a state trooper, a female state trooper, who he had transferred to his personal protection unit because she was hot.
Even though she hadn't even had the number of years that she was supposed to have to be there, he just asked to have her put there.
Yep, and then they did. And then they sent her an email saying, hey, we changed the rules for you. Hey, the gov likes you. And then he had his hands all over her and said stuff like, I want a girl. You need to find me a girlfriend, somebody who's can take the pain or something. Or
somebody who can
something
handle
nice.
Some pain.
Yeah.
Like,
what a twisted dude. And it seems like the AG has this huge report. It mentions him doing all sorts of illegal things. Well, at some point, I would assume somebody to press some charges against this guy.
Yeah, so supposedly she did the local police department is looking into one of them, but I mean, it doesn't seem like there's much forthcoming. I mean, and also the women can sue and obviously use this AG report as evidence now that it was investigated. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be much there. This is another one of my favorites. Do you remember when he got a COVID test live on TV?
I don't remember, but go ahead.
So this is from the report. On March 17, 2020, a then director at New York State's Department of Health, who is also a doctor, participated in a press conference with the governor, during which she performed a live COVID swab on the governor. As they were preparing, the governor requested that the employee not put the swab up his nose so deep you hit my brain, and she replied she would be gentle but accurate in conducting the swab test, to which the governor responded, "Gentle but accurate, I've heard that before." The employee felt that the governor intended to convey a joke of an implied sexual nature. And then at the press conference, in front of the press and cameras, the governor stated, "Nice to see you, doctor. You make that gown look good." The state employees found the governor's comments offensive and said that they would not have been made to an accomplished physician who was a man.
I'd say that is correct. And he, in his presentation today, it shows him like hugging and kissing men and women, this, that, and he uses that as a defense, as if that's a defense. That's not a defense. That just shows he's way too handsy all the time.
I grope people all the time.
My goodness. Anyway, just a minute ago, Biden was asked about this.
Mr. President, I have a question for you on coronavirus, but first I'd like to start with the news of the day, given back in March you said that if the investigation confirmed the allegations against Governor Cuomo, then he should resign. So will you now call on him to resign, given the investigator said the 11 women were credible?
I stand by that statement.
Are you now calling on him to resign?
Yes.
And if he doesn't resign, do you believe he should be impeached and removed from office?
Let's take one thing at a time. think he should resign. I understand that the state legislature may decide to impeach. I don't know that for a fact. I've not read all that data.
So I will say that is absolutely 100% clean, no frills, no doublespeak, no BS, no evasion, no distortion, no spinning, a 100% solid, good, and correct answer by Joe Biden.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think you said Pelosi had called on him to resign too, and Jill and Brandon Schumer are standing by their statements that he should resign and everything else.
Alice, in 2021, you never know.
Yeah, I don't think actually that he has to resign, and I think that everyone called on Northam to resign too. If you recall, everyone said that he ought to resign. I mean, I think so. I think like everybody was like, yeah, Northam should resign. If he's in a Klan hood or in blackface, he should resign. And he just powered through. And I think that Cuomo and many others took this lesson. I mean, Trump is also a master at that form of crisis PR. Is he does something and everyone goes, oh, my goodness, I can't believe he did that. He'll have to quit now. And he doesn't. And then nothing happens.
But Trump operates outside of the norm.
But I think that a lot of people have taken this lesson, both on the left and the right. I think Democrats feel burned by the fact that somebody like Franken resigned and cost them in the long term not having that seat, right? And I think that they feel frustrated. I think that people think it's like a prisoner's dilemma. Like, why should our guys resign if their guys don't have to?
Where did you learn that, by the way, President
That's
Trump?
a game theory. That's a little game theory.
Really? Where'd you learn that?
Yeah, that's from college.
Oh, what? What would you major in?
Economics.
Oh. Wow.
Thank you, honey. So anyway, I just think that that people feel like they're Trump if they resign. And if you can find a way to remove me, then go for it. But I'm not going anywhere of my own free will. You know, I think that's
You know I like you, right?
That's like the crisis message.
You know I like you, right?
Yes.
You know, I consider us almost
okay.
A couple. Almost
wow.
Partners.
Wow. Okay. I'm putting in a complaint to Burn
You
Barrel
are
HQ HR, by the way.
Incredibly sweet and lovely and wonderfully naive as well, though. Alice, don't you see? Can't you see? We've got an election coming up. You get midterm elections. You have state elections in New York. You don't. You get. Who wants to attach themselves to the brand if this guy continues to be an operating Democrat?
Well, but they can say, "Oh, I'm calling on him to resign. I call on you to resign, Andrew Cuomo," and then like just move on with their day. That's why everybody's calling on him to resign, because that's obviously what they need to do politically. They can't attach themselves to it. But I mean, like, what? So what if he doesn't resign? What then?
There's going to be resignations in his administration. People are going to start abandoning ship, and it's going to become untenable for him. And then he's going to say, I'm out of here. Chief of Staff will take him aside and say, hey, just so you know, me and 11 of us are leaving here. We want no part of this. And they're going to see the writing on the wall because they're going to want careers. The people who work for him right now are going to want careers when this thing is through.
I mean, a lot of them are implicated in the thing.
Right. And they're going to want salvation. And I think so, Alice. I think that he's got to go.
I think, well, I mean, I want him to go, but I don't have a lot of faith that in the political moment we're in, he's going to actually resign. Why would he?
Well, the Democratic
he used
president,
state resources to write his book.
The Democratic
killed
president.
Tens of thousands
and one
of
more thing,
like,
Alice. You know what they can do?
He's absolutely shameless.
Right, I understand, but do you know what this is a Democratic president.
Okay.
Who has asked him? This is as if Trump is asking him. The federal government can make things hot for states who don't comply. And they can also make things fruitful for states and people in state government who do comply. Biden is a good old-fashioned, cynical politician.
You think he's going to go that far out of his way to destroy Cuomo?
I don't know that it's that far out of his way.
I don't know.
Who's the lieutenant governor? Do they have one?
They must.
Oh, they do, because last time Elliot Spitzer had to leave, his guy Paddington, whatever, went in. New York.
I mean,
Governor
I don't like
Kathy
Bill Clinton still goes to Democratic Party events. I don't understand why like Cuomo would be any different.
New York State Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul released a statement Tuesday afternoon following Attorney General's report. Sexual harassment is unacceptable in any workplace and certainly not public service. The Attorney General's investigation has documented repulsive and unlawful behavior by the governor towards multiple women. I believe these brave women admire their courage going forward. No one is above the law. Under the Constitution, the Assembly will now determine the next steps. Because Lieutenant Governor's stand next in the line of succession, it would not be appropriate to comment further on the process at this moment. Yeah.
Okay.
You're telling me that they don't make the move right now to switch him out with New York's first female governor?
I don't know. I mean, they can make the move. I think he's not going to go quietly.
Well, I mean, he's not gone quietly to this point.
Well, right. And you can tell from his statement today, he didn't say, like, you know, that he didn't say, like, you know, if people think that it's the right time for me to step aside, then, like, that's probably the right course. He absolutely spent the whole time saying he was misinterpreted. He hugs and kisses everybody. He's Italian. There's a generational divide. He was trying to be understanding about sexual assault. It's actually happened in his family. He understands how bad it is. He would never do something like that. The facts are totally different from everything we've heard in the press, and that he wasn't tried in a court of law. So that was today's press conference, which doesn't to me sound like somebody who has resignation on his to-do list. It just doesn't. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens, but I feel like he's going to try and hold on and see if it blows over. So I am interested to see who's hosting Cuomo's show on CNN tonight.
Okay, yeah, so am I. I had heard so people get David Chalian mixed up with Jeffrey Toobin. I had heard that he had Toobin on, that CNN had Toobin on today. I thought, wow, that would be fantastic. By the way, somebody makes a good point on Twitter. Obviously, Chris Cuomo, he can't be there.
Right.
He can't be there with a straight face. He's got to be on vacation, and
he's
then
in the report as having been on like the crisis management team for the governor.
Right. So you put him on vacation this week, and he goes away next week. That's what he does. That's the idea. And then he goes away forever. But somebody else says this. Just ancillary, because we're talking about CNN here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel if you're a female employee at CNN and Toobin's allowed back in?
Yeah.
You know, knowing about him.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah, I'll be interested to see what the New York Assembly does, because it's interesting that they didn't move to do anything so far. I think it's so weird that out of all these scandals, like, nothing has pushed him or pushed like some, I mean, and this is why I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to happen, because all these people have been calling on him to resign for months, and he's made absolutely not the slightest. Like, both the senators of the state are calling on him to resign, and he's like, meh, whatever. Like, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but he's a psychotic, Alice. He's going to.
But why wouldn't he just keep doing that then?
Because people are going to abandon ship and want to have nothing to do with him.
How is Northam still there?
Northam is still there. When was that? 2018?
Yeah, I don't remember. That seems plausible. 2018 or 2019? Let me look now.
Well, first of all, if Northam, first of all, timing was everything, because he did it pre-George Floyd.
2019.
Yeah, timing was everything. I think during the racial reckoning, but then again, Northam's very popular in his state with black voters.
I mean, he offered to moonwalk in front of the
press. Yeah. That also could have helped, too. People could have said, wait a second.
Saying he wore shoe polish to dress up as Michael Jackson.
Yes.
I mean, and he's still there.
Yeah.
So, it's obviously possible. Right?
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people have taken away the lesson from politics of the last few years, which is that resigning is forever, and if you can hold on, then the scandal goes away. You know, like, how much longer is he even governor anyway? Is there election this year or next year? Do you know? If he can hang on till the end of his term, right? 2022. So he just has to hang on like one more year and not go anywhere, right?
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think he's up next. Wait, no, who's up next year?
2022, but I don't think he's running again, right?
Cuomo?
Yeah.
Is he not running again? I don't know.
I mean, if he can just hang on to the end of his term and not run again, I think he'll be fine. Right? Because, I mean, who knows? I don't know. But he's obviously a creep. I do think, though, and I agree, that this shouldn't have been the scandal that did it. Like, using state resources to write your book should have been a bigger deal than that.
Well,
like,
sure, in just the nursing home thing anyway.
Yeah, the nursing home thing. I mean, killing all the people, obviously, that's a big one. And that's Biden's DOJ decided not to press that further, you know. And then we had the use, the redirection of resources to, like, family members and people who got special access to testing and stuff when there was no testing in the state. Like, his brother got special access to testing. He had state employees going to, like, VIP people's houses to do COVID tests on them when nobody could get COVID tests. Like, that should be a bigger scandal, especially since he's, like, out here using it as an excuse how well he handled COVID. Like,
people were too deeply invested in COVID, Cuomo. Liberals were. They were very public about their support. It felt good to them. He was very much.
There were Cuomo-sexuals.
Absolutely. No, definitely. And he made a poster, and he wrote, like you said, he wrote the book, etc.
Well, his staff that the taxpayers of New York paid wrote the book.
Oh, yeah, of course. He's not going to write it himself. He's not really do. But this is Charlotte Bennett again, and he spends a lot of time today talking about Charlotte Bennett, who he said he tried to help because she had been sexually assaulted. This is Charlotte Bennett again. And listen again, Alice, if it's been a while, how credible this person sounds.
What were you thinking as he's asking you these questions?
I thought, he's trying to sleep with me. The governor's trying to sleep with me. And I'm deeply uncomfortable. And I have to get out of this room as soon as possible.
What made you think that he was trying to sleep with you?
Without explicitly saying it, he implied to me that I was old enough for him and he was lonely.
And that's as they were alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do think that there's you know, I hate to use it, but optics are a thing. And so with the Al Franken deal, there was a picture of him taking liberties with a woman who was asleep. Now, yeah, I don't know that his hand was even on her, but he was messing around.
Right.
Okay? So, and that's just sends to people, and I think also to women, the idea of something like that happening to somebody taking advantage of you is probably...
I mean, I don't even like the idea of some dude taking a picture of me while I'm asleep at all without him making a sexual gesture toward me. I find that invasive.
Right, certainly. So I think that women could...
relate. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So that's one thing. What was I saying?
You said optics are a thing? And
yes, okay,
credible?
and so this is what I'm saying. So if you read the allegation today that he was in an elevator with a state trooper, a woman who he found attractive, and that he kissed her in front of another state trooper and tried another time, I mean, he's degrading her, these accounts. Not only that, but he's having this perverted conversation where he's trying to get content out of her. He wants more stimuli from her. But he's degrading her. Not only did he not treat her like a member of law enforcement who was tasked with doing a job to protect him, who, when she held the door, he would move his hand across her body. Not only did he not treat her like law enforcement, but he treated her like a concubine. I mean, I know he didn't rape her or whatever, but he treated her like an object for his sexual amusement. And there's something about her wearing a badge and hat and having to go through that and having the idea that all that's disregarded because he knows that under there's a woman who is sexually pleasing, and it's so disrespectful. It just seems to me that look.
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
It's even more disrespectful in a way, although there's in a way that's more stark than if he was hitting on the intern, which is also absolutely disrespectful, and because of the power.
Was it Lindsay Boylan who said he wanted to play strip poker with her? Was that her, or was that Charlotte Bennett?
It may have been Lindsay Boylan. I
don't
know.
remember, but yeah.
But yeah, and that's a big power dynamic thing. But when you have somebody who's literally charged with posting up in a room that you're in, etc., and you use that and say, "Wow, she's got to stand there and hold that door for me." Sure, she's not able to easily slap my hands away. It's like, to me, that there's something egregious about that, and just shows that he doesn't respect her, certainly as a cop or anything.
Yeah, he's gross.
He is gross. So let's see. Hopefully he'll get tossed very soon. Okay, some other stuff we have. It's funny that Bernie Sanders was starting to catch heat for running when he runs at the Capitol steps a couple days ago. He runs into AOC and Cori Bush, and he says this:
"Why do I deserve to have two beautiful women here? It's my lucky day. That's why I left the Senate. We don't do this."
That was AOC and Cori Bush, and he's there arm in arm now, walking down the Capitol. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think that's also gross. I also don't like that.
Well,
and I would be uncomfortable if I were them. And I think that they would be uncomfortable if it were anyone else. Maybe they're not because it's Bernie Sanders and they like him. But
well, if you read his writings from the 70s, actually, it would make it.
I know. I was thinking about that.
To me,
too.
it was so like, whoa, Bernie, really? You're that guy? That I was like.
Bernie has built there's a fake persona of Bernie that exists separate from Bernie Sanders, the actual person.
Right, Bernie Sanders, the actual person, is a millionaire from Brooklyn.
Yeah, who's obviously written gross things about women, and
yes.
He's just a grumpy old man who, I mean, he likes young women too. Like, so, but there's a pretend Bernie Sanders that exists in everybody's minds that is different from that, and I think that's why it's like surprising.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some, because they're colleagues, and in the Senate. Or in the House and Senate, and it was done in essentially public because there was also cell phone footage, whatever.
Right.
It's out of whack. I think there's a place for calling a woman beautiful, but probably not your professional colleague.
And probably not like while you have your arm around them.
Yeah,
like,
although you can still compliment somebody's looks, couldn't you? Can't you say you look great today? Or I mean, if you say you're looking beautiful,
but he didn't just say they're beautiful. He said, like, look at me. I have my arms around two beautiful women or whatever. That's a little, like, that's where, to me, it gets a little weird. So speaking of this, so they're doing their, like, eviction moratorium thing because, landlords are persona non grata with liberals these days. And Biden, I guess, did you see any of this in his speech that he just gave a few minutes ago? So I guess they're going to try and extend it, even though they know the courts are going to shoot it down, just to give states more time to disperse the money that they haven't had time to disperse yet.
Why haven't they had time to disperse it?
Because I don't know.
They've had it forever, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had it forever. But, yeah, and like, it's just ridiculous at this point because there are landlords that haven't been paid in months and months and months. They can't evict people. They're stuck. I mean, there's people that have had to sell houses they own because they can't make the mortgage payments without people paying their rent. And it's a huge problem. And I don't know. And then, like, they claim to be for the little guy, but then, like, just the couple that owns a 2-family so that they can retire by selling it, they have to sell it because the Biden administration is going to make sure that people don't pay their rent, and then like BlackRock is going to sweep in and buy up all these places, and then everyone's landlord will just be BlackRock. So that's the situation that we're going to end up with. I mean, like everything else about this pandemic, how the rules have hit people is it's hit the little people, and not like Amazon has done better. The big box stores have done better. The big landlords are going to do better in all this because they can afford the armies of lawyers and ways to figure things out and help their tenants get rental assistance to make sure that they get paid and everything else. And like the little guy who just owns like a 2-family or a 3-family, they're the ones who are going to get screwed ultimately.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And that's one of the horrible legacies of this pandemic is, in just the last year and a half, is government playing favorite.
Right.
And what that does to the morale of those excluded from the favoritism, it rightfully, sows incredible aggravation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it makes you cynical about your government whatsoever. And so when the same government comes to you hand in hand and wants a favor, wants you to do a solid for them, you want to say go to hell.
Right, exactly. Especially when it comes to things like all these mandates and stuff, because people have gotten screwed by the government every turn in this pandemic. And now the government's coming and saying, now we need you to do this to stop the spread or whatever. And like, that's why at this point, people are just saying, screw you back to the government, because there's no way people are going to do this stuff. There's no way. So New York just put in this, their new app so that restaurants, they're mandating.
Excelsior.
No, Excelsior is the New York State one. New York City now has their own COVID app, and they're mandating just in New York City that it all like indoor dining, theaters, entertainment, gyms, everybody has to be vaccinated.
Right. The producer at the TIC actually had bought tickets for a couple of months from now and was told to bring his passport with him.
Right. So, but what's interesting about this is that it's not actually like relying on any new technology or anything. All the app is to take a picture of your vaccine card and then show it on the app. It's essentially like a photo storage app, and you can still show your paper card. The thing itself doesn't like check any database.
Yeah.
So it's all like BS, because I mean, I remain unconvinced, and I know that people are rightfully very worried about this whole like vaccine passport thing, but I mean, I just think that ultimately, like, look how bad the state is at everything. Do you remember the healthcare.gov rollout?
Of course.
Do you remember the subsequent Massachusetts version of healthcare.gov rollout? Do you remember? I mean, like, they couldn't even get the stupid website working to sign up to get the vaccines. How are they going to have something that's like a database that's up and running so that every restaurant and store in an entire state can like constantly be sending queries to it and it'll get back the information? It just seems like, I just don't believe that they're competent enough to actually pull it off in time for the outbreak to be over. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Right. No, I completely agree. And maybe it's meant not to work, Alice, because in New York, a city especially, a great number of unvaccinated people are Black and Hispanic.
Right. And not only that, I don't know if you realize this about Excelsior Pass, but Excelsior Pass only works for people who are vaccinated in New York. It's not hooked up to any other thing in the state. In any other state, I mean. So.
Oh, so, okay.
So, like, if you or I go, Excelsior Pass won't work for us because we weren't vaccinated in the state of New York. Speaking of vaccines, Morgan in Vermont has a theory, by the way.
What?
He feels that maybe little Jerry was pressured into getting the vaccine, and that is possibly the reason for his untimely, mysterious demise.
Well, I saw a much more plausible theory, Alice, that a certain person, an angry misandrist, pulled out of the driveway, backed out rapidly, as has been done, to break my bike and to break a tree trunk that was out there. And possibly little here. Jerry. Oh, I'm not confirming that as fact. I don't know that that's true. And perhaps you took his life, Alice, as you were wont to do, and I'm not at all surprised. Poor little Jerry Callahan. Feel free to go to burnbarrelpodcast.com and purchase a shirt out of memory. It was Jerry's. It was always a priority of LGC to get his image, his likeness, distributed to as much of the world as possible in a show of unity and world peace. All proceeds, of course, go to Don Sheffield. Also, we have this guy, Francis Collins, from the National Institute of Health. He's the guy who said it's a COVID Thanksgiving. He's a little wacky. I found stuff on him today. He is effing crazy. This dude is crazy. This is him today on CNN.
It's clear that this...
You hear him? How theatrical he is?
variant is capable of causing serious illness in children. You have heard those stories coming out of Louisiana pediatric ICUs where there are kids as young as a few months old who are sick.
He is citing, Alice, he is citing BS right now. The idea that the ICUs are bursting in Louisiana. This is not true with kids, and the kids are getting the disease, are at more risk than we thought they were. It's not true. They're not at risk. He's not saying the truth. He's being vague anyway, but he's also not speaking the truth.
From this. That is rare. Certainly younger people are less likely to fall ill. But
yes, they're much less likely to fall ill.
Yeah, like a lot less.
Yes.
Like a lot less than lots of things that we let kids do, no problem.
He tries to tell you, you don't have to worry about it if you're a young, healthy person. There's many counterexamples all around us.
What is he doing here? You don't have to worry about it if you're a young person. No, that still does apply. There's many examples that it doesn't. This is the National Institute of Health guy.
Yeah. The point is, of course, there are horror stories with anything. Of course, some people get things and get them really badly, and some people even very unfortunately die. Like 300 kids under 17 have died of COVID. That's true. That's true. It's possible. A lot of things are possible. But a lot more kids than that die from like their bureau tipping over in their house on them.
Now, so you do need to think about it, and that's the reason why the recommendations are for kids under 12 that they avoid being in places where they might get infected, which means recommendations of mask wearing in schools, and that at home, parents of unvaccinated kids should be thoughtful about this, and the recommendation is to wear masks there as well.
Let me just follow up on that.
I know that's uncomfortable. I know it seems weird, but it is the best way to protect your kids.
It is uncomfortable and weird. It's bizarre. This guy's a psycho. And Alice, if you
he subsequently backtracked and said he misspoke, and that he meant that people should wear masks when they're not at home indoors, even if they're vaccinated. But that's literally not what he said at all.
No,
he said you don't misspeak and say, I know this sounds weird, but you should wear a mask even at home. And then say like, oh, well, I actually meant to say when you're at the store, because that wouldn't be weird. But, I mean, he obviously knew what he was saying, and he's just embarrassed by the pushback
He
now.
said something stupid the other day as well. This guy is saying more and more wacky things. And listen to this. This is something I just found. This is from last year, Alice.
Okay.
I don't know. Did I tweet this out?
I don't know.
From last year, Alice.
Okay.
He played guitar in a video, a wooden acoustic guitar, while his wife flitted around pretending to be coronavirus, ding, did little jumps, wearing a hat that had coronavirus little spores on it.
Poof, coronavirus came from overseas, infecting folks across the land, Seattle, NYC. A little bat's virus, love those human cells. Next
SARS will come and kill your kid, but we're still having fun. Who the holy frig writes a fun song about the coronavirus?
Well, we did.
Well, I understand that, Alice, but this guy's the health guy in charge. This guy is the guy talking about all the death, all the 600,000 people dying on this. By the way, we didn't write a funny song about the coronavirus. We wrote about these people. We wrote about Fauci, and this guy specifically was in the song. It's a COVID thing. That was him.
I know.
He's got an effing song with his wife dancing around like a fish. At one point, she swims across the screen in their living room.
You know the cases grow and the world has gone too. It's a family show. Heck, poof, coronavirus came from overseas, infecting folks across the land, Seattle, NYC. Poof, coronavirus, called COVID-19, quickly spread like a wildfire. Now we're in quarantine. Now no one can travel or even leave their homes.
You hear this, psycho?
Schools are closed, all kids...
By the way, Puff the Magic Dragon was a nice, friendly guy. Poof the coronavirus? What is this, psycho?
Snow, avoid the danger zones. We all must do our part to protect
I'm a
the
total
ones we
psycho.
love. So if you meet at least 6 feet and handle doors with gloves.
He wrote, without knowing it, a parody song about healthcare idiots. About himself.
I feel uncomfortable making fun of people for making parody songs.
No, Alice. This is the director of the NIH, Alice.
I mean,
this is the guy who can't write a song about it. He's not allowed to write a song about it, okay?
Okay.
And also, I don't know that his is a parody song. He loves Poof the coronavirus. This guy is such a psycho. Such an incredible psycho. And we're listening to him? I know it may sound weird, but yeah, your kids, they have to wear masks when they're in the house with you. It may sound weird. Just because I'm taking a break from writing the follow-up sequel to Poof the Coronavirus, yeah, that might seem weird to you too, but I'm completely sane. It's a COVID Thanksgiving. Oh, ha, ha. This guy's a psycho. How many of these psychos are working? Like he said, he's got like 400,000 employees or whatever. How many psychos are working in the federal bureaucracies?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like, I'm fine if we just get rid of the NIH altogether. If Rand Paul could just defund the whole debacle, we'd be better off, I think, at this point.
Poof
coronavirus. At least he said it came from overseas. I'm surprised he put that in there.
Let's see. Okay, is this last year? I think this is last. This is last year. Let's see. I'm going to just try to do a search for Collins. I wonder if this is the same guy. Yeah, it is. This is last. I don't even know what this is going to say. June 3rd, 2021. Okay.
Talked about vaccines. We've talked about research, but now more here. We all agree that it's very important to put COVID behind us. You and I have talked about vaccines. We've talked about research, but now more and more, I think it's really important that we drill down because we don't want this to happen again. And we have seen other viruses that came from lab leaks. I think that is also something that wasn't widely discussed at the beginning of this. So I think there are a lot of questions about the relationships and why we weren't asking tougher questions early on from our medical professionals.
I agree we need to get to the bottom of this, but gosh, you and I just spent a whole bunch of minutes here talking about some issue that we need to get an answer to, and meanwhile people are still dying from COVID-19, and we didn't even talk about the ways to get to an end to this with vaccines. So please, could we have a bit more of the focus on how we're going to save lives while we're talking about how this all started? Well, we need both of those, don't we?
We have put a lot of time into
bastard.
that, and I think the questions about the origins of this are not going away, Dr. Collins, and I think we need to...
You know what it probably is?
What?
He's probably jealous that the Fauci gets all the attention.
Yeah.
There's no one's making socks with Francis Collins' face on it. He's doing media hits too. He wrote a funny song. He's fun and lovable. How come everyone loves Fauci instead of him?
He's obviously an old ex-hippie who probably wanted to be a musician. He is using a capo on the guitar, so he knows a little something. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. He probably thought that thing would go viral.
Yeah. He thought, I'm fun and lovable. How come everyone loves Fauci and not me? How come he's the face of this? How come everyone's idolizing him and singing songs about him and loving him, and no one thinks I'm fun and lovable and saving them from COVID?
Good point, Alice. Brilliant, brilliant revelation. Oh, my goodness. All right, so what else do we got here? That's Francis Collins, the psycho. DeSantis today. Oh, no, DeSantis, let's see. Some dude went nuts on Frontier Airlines. Some like 22-year-old idiot. Did you see this?
Mm-hmm. I sent that to you.
Oh, you did? Okay. And they, sorry. Jeez. I'm an English major. Or what are you? Economics? Economics major.
And math.
And math. What did you get in your SATs?
1570.
Mm-hmm. Wow. A lot of A's over there, Alice.
How many AP exams do you think I got a 5 on?
Out of 5 out of what?
5.
5 out of 5? You got, I don't know how many, what's an AP exam?
It's an advanced placement exam. they give you college credit for taking it because it means your high school class was at the level of rigor of a college course.
They forgot to give me my exams, I think. I don't know. How many did you nerd? How many did you get, Alice?
11.
Oh, my goodness. There you go. Man, I can tell you must have been at the popular table at Lexington High School. Here's a Frontier Airlines kid. This kid is beautiful. First, he talks about how his parents are rich. As he's saying, bleep you to everybody. He grabbed two stewardesses' breasts. I believe he's had a cocktail. And then eventually he punches one flight attendant. Then they duct tape him to his seat, which is wonderful. I've just condensed a few seconds of this.
Let's go. You guys suck. My parents are worth more than $2 million. My grandpa is worth more than $1
Now they're duct taping him. You can hear it. You know,
I love how the other passengers are so thrilled, too.
I love it, too. First of all, this should be, the duct tape people should make a commercial out of this.
So this is actually the second person in the last few months who's been duct taped to a seat. There was a woman who went nuts on a plane like a few weeks ago.
I will start
too,
flying more if I can be
taped.
promised. And by the way, if you're in a situation where there's any shot at all that you can be duct taped to your seat, choose your throw-down words carefully, okay? And choose your breast grabbing. Be discerning, because...
I also was amazed by my parents are worth more than $2 million because, okay, so obviously, we're not worth anything close to $2 million. As a matter of fact, you'll be surprised to know, all you Burn Barrel listeners
we're $2 million in debt, Alice, maybe.
But I don't know that that's, that impressive.
No, in rich people circles, that isn't very rich. There's no doubt about
because,
that.
a lot of boomers and stuff have houses that are worth, $1 million
Yeah.
and stuff, before you even get to their retirement money. So, and it's my parents. It's not like I'm wealthy. It's like, my parents
And
are
by the
worth
way,
more than $2 million.
Is he mad that they were mad at him for touching their breasts?
And not only that, too, but... Isn't Frontier Airlines, isn't it Spirit Airlines? Isn't it a cheap airline?
I think it is.
So maybe the I'm actually really wealthy lines don't work as well on budget airlines.
Yeah, but he didn't even say that. He said my parents. It also tells you that if he thinks $2 million is filthy rich, then he doesn't do much of his own spending. That's mommy and daddy who buy the things. Yeah, he sucks, so it's good. I think that technically they could have thrown him out of the plane. I would have been fine with it. Okay, so also, Ron DeSantis gets a jerky, because the world's trying to tell us that there's all these spikes in cases in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And, that means that they're getting their comeuppance, they're just desserts.
Mm-hmm.
As Seth Moulton has it, I don't have the cut anymore. They have it coming, right?
Yeah.
Because they've relaxed restrictions. But, of course, the people mostly getting it are younger people who probably have a much better chance of surviving and are less likely to be hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I believe I've read here and there that the Delta variant is probably not as deadly as the Alpha variant.
Yeah.
So this woman's now piling on this reporter. You'll hear where she goes. You won't be surprised whatsoever.
The kids are in Joe DiMaggio Hospital. 2 of them are in our ICU. Don't you think the mask would help those poor children?
Do you have any data to suggest that? Do you know if they were wearing masks?
I know they weren't vaccinated.
Well, they're not right. They're not eligible for the vaccination. I mean, that's not. I mean, well, so you're blaming the kids, saying they weren't wearing masks and so they're in the ICU. With all due respect, I find that deplorable. To blame a victim who ends up being hospitalized. You don't know their story. You don't know what happened with that.
But she really wants it to be that. That's what they want it to be. You see, because they watch Tucker and they live in your state, and you said that people didn't have to mask everywhere. I don't know how much more we can say this, by the way, that Mike Osterholm, who is an advisor, epidemiologist to Joe Biden,
yes,
has said that those masks that we're all wearing, that we've been wearing,
mm-hmm.
suck and are not helpful in this whole thing.
And this has been a really negative thing throughout this whole thing with some of these, quote, experts, some of the media. Somebody contracts a highly transmissible airborne virus, and they're viewed as having done something wrong. And that's just not the way you do it. When people come in, you treat them. You know, we obviously have some people that are not vaccinated that have been admitted to hospitals. Are you going to sit there? Are you going to sit there and criticize, or are we going to try to treat and try to help the folks? You know, I'm just sick of this judge. I'm sick of the judgmental stuff on some of this stuff. Nobody's trying to get ill here. Okay, it's a very there's people that were hermits for a year and a half that wore 6 masks and did that and still contracted it. Okay, so let's just be real here, and let's not indulge these things that somehow it's their fault for not doing it. So okay, we'll see you guys.
There we go. There's hopefully the next president of the United States saying the obvious truth.
Yeah, well, did you hear what Jen Psaki said about him today?
I got this.
You will hear the president convey later. If you are not going to be a part of the solution, if you're not going to be a part of saving people's lives, then get out of the way and let other people do the job.
Get out of the way.
That means don't make it harder for people to put requirements on masks or asking for vaccination status into law.
Get out of the way, Ron DeSantis.
I think DeSantis did an incredibly good job getting vaccinations in Florida for people who needed to get them. Remember, they took all sorts of crap for him using his friends at Publix to do it.
I know, the most popular place to get prescriptions anywhere in Florida.
It's this administration that had vaccination distribution problems, not DeSantis' administration. Ridiculous. I'll go quickly to Raphael Warnock, Alice, who's going to, you'll never believe it, who has managed to, of course, tie race to everything, because that's what he lives for when it comes to Georgia voting laws, but has tied the virus to it in a cleverly worded ditty, I think.
This is the Delta variant of Jim Crow voting laws. And the only vaccination is federal legislation. And so you keep standing up.
It's not perfect because the Delta variant spreads more, but it's less deadly.
It's better than the Jim Eagle comparison. But I mean, I think the implication is that this is worse than Jim Crow voting laws, right?
Well,
this is
that was supposed to be. I think he mangled the metaphor.
Right, but that's supposed to be the message that this is especially bad amongst them. So I have a couple more quick things I wanted to mention. One is we have been talking about the whole racism in medicine or anti-racism in medicine. Mm-hmm. So there's a new scandal in the medical world. This came out yesterday. There is a group, they're working on medical AI. So they've been feeding a bunch of chest x-rays into an AI program and having it like look and learn to identify illnesses and stuff like better than a human can because it can see it on the x-ray. Now, what's interesting about this is part of the data sets they've fed into it includes the people's race, gender, like amongst the data about each person that's fed in. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that even though doctors don't know how to tell somebody's race by their chest x-ray, the computer AI program can identify with insane amounts of accuracy what a person's self-reported race is without knowing in advance. On the chest x-ray. So it's it can just
self-reported by their physiology.
Well, no, like it can determine whether the person came into the hospital and when they were asked for their race, if they said black or white or Asian based on the chest x-ray of the person when it doesn't know. Because it's seen a bunch of them that have race listed as an attribute of the person and it now can tell. And the doctors don't know how it's doing it because they don't know any way to tell race by someone's chest x-ray. Like doctors can't. And so now they're looking at these and this is a preprint, so it's not peer reviewed yet, but they're literally now asking for help because they're so upset by this finding. They've tried like blurring the images almost all the way out, introducing noise, and it's still ridiculously accurate at determining race. It can tell what race somebody is by their chest x-ray, and the doctors don't know how it's doing it, and they're extremely upset about this. Because that implies that there are physical differences between people of different races, and race is supposed to be a social construct. So let me read you a little bit of this tweet thread from Dr. Luke, who says, Medical AI has the worst superpower, racism. We've put out a preprint reporting concerning findings. AI can do something humans can't. Recognize the self-reported race of patients on x-rays. This gives AI a path to produce health disparities. This is a big deal, so we wanted to do it right. We did dozens of experiments, replication at multiple labs on numerous data sets and tasks. We are releasing all the code as well as new labels to identify racial identity for multiple public data sets. Humans can't detect race better than chance, but the AI performs absurdly well. The AUC scores are in the high 90s and are maintained on external validation on completely distinct data sets and across multiple different imaging tasks. We perform many experiments to work out how it does this, but we can't pin it down. AI can detect race from images filtered so heavily they appear to the human eye to be just blank gray squares. So they're putting out the direct link to the paper. They want people to tell them what went wrong and how they need to fix the AI. As I've said, they've released all the code because they're very upset that they've accidentally produced a racist AI that's going to cause black people to get worse health care.
So what? First of all, when you say race is a social construct, what do you mean?
They believe that. They believe that, you don't know when somebody comes into the doctor's office and it's like a black guy, we determine socially that they're a black guy based on like a bunch of factors, but we don't know their genetics. Like we don't know specifically which ethnic group they're in,
Okay.
But so we can tell race, but part of it is social, right? It's like Sean King, if he dresses a certain way and acts a certain way, he would be perceived as black even though he's white. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or
gotcha.
racial dolezal, right? That part of how we perceive race is just social. So obviously he could throw off the AI if Sean King went in there and did that, right? So their feeling is though that all racial determinations are like that.
Okay.
And so they're confused. Why? Because they know deep down that race is a social construct. They're confused and upset that the AI is somehow figuring out what people have reported themselves to be in this social construct.
So it's going by what the pattern of people previously had reported to be, and it's finding similarities with the race that they reported to be and something in their x-rays.
Right.
Okay.
So it's able to tell, and
right. So then it makes the conclusion that all of the people identifying as this have this that we found,
but they can't figure out what it is. They can't tell what the AI is deciding
why
based
not?
on.
Why doesn't the AI show its work?
Well, not really, though, because what the AI is doing is it's just I've looked at all these ones, and now I know that this one is a black person. And, they're how do you know? And they can't figure it out. That's why they've released all the code, and they're please tell us where we went wrong and made this AI racist.
But is there not supposed to be... But when it says this person is a black person, it's not doing the social construct thing. It's saying that this person is biologically pigmented like this.
Yeah, but race isn't just skin tone.
Okay,
there are tanned white people who are darker.
No, I understand, absolutely. But
it's able to determine how people are likely to have reported themselves.
But there are obviously physical differences between races, obviously.
I mean, sickle cell anemia is a big one, and this, we talked about in the med schools. But this is now, for the woke medical profession, the idea that there are actual legitimate physiological differences that correlate to race is considered a problem. And they feel that they've accidentally made a racist AI, and they're very upset about it.
This is, it would, I mean, obviously that's horribly scary, especially because we're talking about science here, which I thought was meant to be
you would think
followed.
It was kind of an interesting finding.
Yes.
Wow, this AI is really good. It can determine
it's
people's
now
race.
forbidden AI is going to be relegated to, Charles Murray's prison.
I guess so.
Isn't that what it is? Isn't this we're afraid they're going to hit another bell curve that's going to show that, oh my goodness, that the Caucasians have a better clavicle than other races? Oh my goodness. Isn't that the fear?
Yeah, they're scared that they'll find out that there's differences between races, and they don't want to know that. So that's why they're asking for help with their code.
But why are they afraid of that? You know why they're afraid? It's because they have no faith in their fellow human beings. And it's pure projection, because they're afraid that their fellow human beings are going to think of people who are different than they, just like they do. In other words, lesser of them. Mm-hmm. Think worse of them. And so they're like, oh no, if people get this idea that Ashkenazi Jewish people have a more well-formed tibula than other races, then they're going to separate them or either think that they're superior or think they're inferior and subjugate them somehow and treat them like animals and this and that, because they assume that they're afraid of what we're going to do with the information.
Right.
It's much like the COVID thing, really.
I know.
We can't be trusted with any information. So get the poof coronavirus guy.
Poof coronavirus.
Have that psycho lie to us about kids having to wear masks. Have that psycho say, oh no, you can't let the AI, don't let this get out. Something's happening. Rejigger this so it doesn't look like this. We can't trust the people with that information. God knows what they'll do. Oh no. It's crazy. It's the same reason with the bell curve thing that the people went nuts over 20 years ago. Saying, look at this. You're saying that some people are superior than other people, whatever. And they were very careful to make sure that was not the takeaway. It's like, we're afraid of, absolutely follow the science, but we're afraid of the science at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, and if you're afraid, if this psycho.
Poof coronavirus.
And you think that there other people think like you because you're a psycho and you probably do feel that some people are lesser? Well, then, of course, you're going to raise the alarm, ring the alarm bells. Oh, my goodness, somebody's finding somebody different. Somebody's finding somebody different. I think we talked about this the other day. What was I looking for? Oh, yeah, that's right. We had this article. I don't know if we read it here or just online about oh, that's right. That's what it came from. Mm-hmm. Remember we talked about the people making comments about Asian gymnast bodies and Asian bodies in the Olympics, and how it's a big, serious, racist thing because people say the Asians are more compact and, the center of gravity or whatever happen to be. Mm-hmm. Because Asians, historically, some Asians have been shorter and more compact than other people. And so then I looked up, like, who's tall, who's small, who's this and that. And found out that there are a lot of Asians. Asians are mostly smaller.
Yeah, on average.
Yes, on average. But also some Asians, and I think like in South Korea, are now getting really tall. Mm-hmm. American Anglos are shrinking, have lost a bunch of place. I think somewhere in the Netherlands, like Denmark or something, are the tallest people all over the place. But all sorts of people are getting taller and shorter and shorter and taller. And there's a number of reasons for it. And you don't have to be afraid. You know why that is? Yeah. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean that that they were going to cook up an Aryan race to. The Aryans aren't winning, by the way, in any of the categories. I hate to tell the neo-Nazis, but it's not working for them. But also,
I don't know, honey. You're a great specimen.
I'm not. I don't know what I don't want to find out what crap I am. But listen, but where I got yelled at one time. I had this conversation with a big progressive, and he said, that's racist. That's like saying that Kenyan runners are better than everybody else. And I said, well, aren't they? Don't they always? I said, don't they always win? And he said, that is racist. No, there's no difference. It happens to be that the elevation climates are why there's. Well, then, okay, it's the climate. Mm-hmm. So I actually looked into this too. This forbidden. Why do some runners win? And there's a whole bunch of reasons. One is the different climates. The one is the lack of transportation. So you're walking 26 miles a day regardless, and sometimes running somewhere makes it faster. Some are physical attributes, long, lean, skinny, and some other attributes that were mentioned were desire.
Right.
I would like to move out of this hut and drive a Beamer and have air conditioning. And I think I have a pretty good shot at beating this group of people at running, and I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. There's like thousands of reasons, and they're all interesting reasons, and they're nothing to be afraid of. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and there's a possibility that there is something that they're missing with this AI study, that it is detecting something that's like an existing attribute of, ways Black people have access to less resources on average, although that's a pretty high degree of accuracy, like the high 90s, to be able to determine it. So, I don't know if that's the case or not, but it could be something. We know that people's genetics are changed by their environments also. Like,
yes.
We know that even like things like they found in a study a few years ago that people who were descended from Holocaust survivors are genetically different from other people because the trauma like manifests genetically and it changes their genes and the way that they're passed down. And so, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of possible reasons. Like, I mean, but to have zero curiosity about it except to say, like, how did we go wrong? And they are getting some criticism from people who are saying, why was race even in the factors that you fed into the AI in the first place?
So now we're taking race out of everything again. First it was out, then it was in, and now it's out again.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, it's this whole, like, just lack of curiosity about why things might happen and, like, lack of wanting to see any possible disparity or talk about it in any way is really dangerous. And it's dangerous for Black people as well, because as people have pointed out, people sometimes respond differently to medications on the basis of these things. And if you just refuse to know that because that would be bad to know it, then that's a problem. I don't see why, you know, because we can't even study any differences or anything else.
Yeah, yes, because we don't want to ever in any part of life ever have disparate outcomes. We have to blindly go into science that could very likely result in having disparate bad outcomes for those we're trying to protect.
Mm-hmm.
That's the prime directive now.
I guess so.
Do no harm, but do harm.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's been another fun Burn Barrel. You can find us on Twitter. That is at Burn Barrel Pod. We're also at Facebook.com.
Why do you get to decide if it was another fun Burn Barrel?
It was another fun Burn Barrel.
Isn't it? If they liked it? I thought this one started off slow and ended big. I think 7 minutes in, maybe they weren't having fun.
Okay, well, my part was good. Anyway, you can find us also at burnbarrelpodcast.com. That's where you can find little Jerry shirts. See Tom,
nice.
I hope you're happy. And you can email us, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com, or check us out on YouTube. That's Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel over there.
C'est la vie.